Good afternoon, everybody. It's David Schlotthauer here, and welcome back to another weather forecast. In today's weather discussion, we will be looking at our latest models on that big snowstorm that is going to be moving across the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes into the Northeast by Wednesday and Thursday into Friday next week, bringing much colder temperatures and strong winds. So in this video, we will be breaking down all those details. So taking a look at our current weather conditions across the United States for the 6th day of December here, and we can see what is going on right now across the United States. We got the majority of the central, western, and across the eastern coast here, seeing sunny skies, clear skies as well. There is a little bit of haze and fog issues, a lot of stagnant air across California, also across the Pacific Northwest. Below the cirrus clouds, there is a lot of low-level stratus that has caused a lot of stagnation issues. Lots of strong winds, too, pumping through the Columbia River Gorge, as well as Boise, Idaho, getting some fog there. But on the side note of all of that, we are seeing largely clear skies, although some cirrus clouds bumping against the ridge of high pressure across the west with this northwesterly flow, which will be re-amplifying by the middle of next week. We'll bring our big system with much colder temperatures, and this whole area here across much of the eastern U.S. will have some sort of much colder temperatures or the chances of rain and snow. So this is how it's going to shape up here on the latest European model. The ECMWF stands for European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting, and this is for Sunday afternoon into early Monday morning. That's the validation time here for December the 8th and the 9th. We can see areas where it's going to be raining, what the model picks, what the model thinks is going to happen here, and you can see across Arkansas, Mississippi, Louisiana, as well as western Tennessee and southeastern Missouri. That's where you're going to have the best chances of some moderate to heavy rainfall that could fall, as well as the moderate to heavy snowfall across the northern portion there of Minnesota. There's a lot of cold air to the north of this system, and as these two collide in across the Great Lakes and the Northeast, we're going to have a big system to talk about here as we go into Wednesday into Thursday. And as we do fast forward that into Monday morning, for a lot of people, for you, if you're working, if you're doing any commuting, just be aware that it is going to be pretty wet on Monday morning. All right, so from Ohio, Indiana, south across, say, Michigan, all rain into, say, Mississippi and Alabama, northern Georgia, as well as the Carolinas, you're likely to see a lot of rainfall. Although the winds don't look to be very strong at all because our gradient doesn't look that strong in the first place, but you could see some breezy winds otherwise. But what's going to end up happening here is the thermal gradient is going to tighten. So that first initial push of moisture is going to bring about some light rainfall across downtown New York, maybe some brief snow flurries at first, transitioning over to rain, and then up here across Vermont, New Hampshire, as well as upstate New York, I mean the extreme like Watertown area, you have the best chances of seeing some light dusting of snow with this first initial system. But there's going to be a reinforcing boundary. By Tuesday morning, it looks pretty good other than some showers down here across the southeast and maybe some snow left over with the first initial impulse of moisture and energy. But watch what happens. By the time we go into Tuesday, this re-amplifies because we got lots of cold air that is going to be coming out of Manitoba, Canada, as well as Saskatchewan. Much colder air. This is Arctic air, folks. Temperatures up here, wait until you see the temperature forecast. It is very brutal up here. Wind chill advisories or wind chill warnings could be needed by the middle of next week because of how cold this air mass actually is. All right. Even so, a lot of the moisture will have fallen already across out ahead of the cold front. This is going to be the warm sector where it's all going to fall at. There may be some snow that fills in behind it, especially once this surface low gets going on the European model. This is for Wednesday morning. Again, we've been talking about this between Wednesday and Thursday. That time frame for the middle of next week is when I think we are going to have the best chances for more heavy rainfall, stronger winds as this gets to be more dynamic. And you can see this clearly by Wednesday afternoon. Look at what happens. That colder air filters in underneath all this precipitation. And guess what you get? You start off as rain and then turns over to snow. We may have some icy roadways too, because some of the rain that has fallen will likely freeze quickly because of all this colder air coming in. So yes, some black ice, maybe some power outages due to some accumulating rainfall on the branches. It may freeze briefly. We might even get a little bit of freezing rain briefly before the snow transitions, and that could lead to additional power outages. So keep that in mind. But wow, Wednesday afternoon into Thursday morning is the timeline, is the hot spot here, when we could have a lot of problems across Albany, New York, Watertown, New York, Buffalo, New York, lake effect snow coming in on the backside because of all this colder air moving over the warm lake waters. That creates instability, that creates destabilization, and as that occurs, we get moisture, and moisture means what? Clouds, and clouds mean what? We are going to see some lake effect snow, and there could be a lot of it at times, especially over Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, Lake Superior as well. But that's not going to last very long because our pattern is going to be quickly changing. So that system moves out of the area by Thursday afternoon, maybe some lake effect snow leading behind that, and of course some much colder temperatures, and temperatures modulate a little bit by Saturday. And this is the furthest we'll go out. This is through the 14th of December. You can see that colder air moving out, and warmer air returns across the region as another system tries to develop here. And this could be another one of those that we might need to be watching for, maybe a risk of some severe weather as we do get some moisture getting pulled in out of the Gulf of Mexico. Now, the GFS model has a different take on this as we go forward. Again, we talked about this plot of moisture by Monday morning. So for your morning commute across Tennessee, the Carolinas, as well as Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, into Ohio and Indiana, West Virginia, expect wet roadways, expect longer commute times because of all that rainfall, and then that turns over to snow once it gets into the Northeast. But watch what happens, that reinforcing boundary because of this colder air. And boy, I mean, look at this really cold air coming in and out of the north. That Arctic high really gonna make it feel much colder because of also northwesterly winds. So the wind chill values will definitely make it feel even colder out there. And the GFS, just like the Euro, is a little bit bullish here. Some pretty heavy snowfall rapidly filling in on the backside of this. This could be a little tricky to forecast. So for right now, it looks like snow does not look to be a problem just yet across downtown New York, as well as in Connecticut and most of Massachusetts. But if you're in upstate New York, like say where I've circled in here, you have the best chances of seeing more significant snowfall. But now if more colder air is able to filter in, and based on model guidance, then we could have a lot more snowfall to contend with across even our metro areas here of New York, like New York City. And then that moves out of the area by Thursday afternoon, a little slower on the GFS model and a little bit lesser on the lake effect snow machine. I don't know why that is, probably due to a little bit of drier air and lesser colder air, I would say, is one of the issues on the GFS there, but still does show some lake effect snow. And then by the time we go into next weekend, the GFS is a little different at showing nothing versus the Euro had a little bit more dynamics here in the Midwest. Now, of course, we're going to do something a little bit different in this video. What are the probability chances of seeing this amount of snowfall? So in this case, what are the chances of you seeing a 10-1 ratio snowfall total of about 12 inches? So the higher the chances, the more likely it's going to happen. And this is based on the European ensemble forecasts. All 51 members put into a blend of averages. So this is basically another way of saying, instead of just looking at one model run and showing you that, oh, this is what you're going to get, we're looking at an ensemble and a probabilistic, or probabilistic, in other words. That's a little tongue twister word for me. You can see up here in upstate New York, portions of Vermont and New Hampshire, there's about a 20 to 30% chance you might see a foot of snowfall in the 10-1 ratio. Now, up here across portions of, say, Michigan, northernmost Michigan, there's a 70% chance you could see up to a foot of snowfall there, okay? And then when we kind of dial it down, what are the chances of you seeing 6 inches of snow? Well, many areas up here across the Great Lakes region of, say, Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, across upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, you have a greater than 70% chance of seeing at least 6 inches of snowfall. Northern Michigan, too, most certainly a likelihood chance you're going to see at least 6 inches of snow. Now, if you really just are wanting just any kind of snowfall amount, what are the chances of you seeing an inch of snowfall? Let's see if we can load that in. There we go. So you can see much of New York here, you have at least a likelihood chance of seeing at least 1 inch of snow, but most likely it would melt pretty quickly beforehand or whenever, depending on how much sun you actually get. So most likely 6 inches is more significant, so that's why we use this more so likely. But yeah, for those people that are curious, you can see Indiana, there's a non-zero chance. In Ohio, of course, across the Great Lakes and the extreme northeast. So now, what about those temperatures? Actually, no, wait. This is the amount of rainfall, excuse me. Then we'll get to our probabilistic of our temperatures. So looking at our rainfall or the chances of seeing 2 inches of rainfall. Man, I'm having some trouble with some words today. In Georgia and the Carolinas, as well as southern Alabama, southern Mississippi, into Louisiana, you have about a 30 to 50% chance of seeing at least 2 inches of rainfall in these areas. All right. So in simple terms, I'm not really showing you all the exact rain amounts because those are going to change from run to run. And instead, we're going to really focus and dial in on our probabilistic chances here of one seeing this amount of rainfall. All right, and then of course where it doesn't snow, it's going to be rainfall, and you can see here along the eastern or northeastern seaboard, you have a 20 to 30% chance of seeing at least 2 inches of rainfall. Now, in many areas, you have at least, actually we'll do at least an inch, because it's, that covers a lot of people. You can see there is at least almost a 100% chance across Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia and the Carolinas, and near 100% chance across the Northeast. But again, this will likely fall in the form of snow, most likely up here where I've circled, and along the coast here, it's going to be more in the form of rain. It just depends on how much warm air advection is able to throw in moisture on the backside, and so we get isotropic lift on the backside to get that snow machine going. But either way you put it, you can see here on the ensemble forecast, one seeing at least 1 inch of QPF amounts is above 70 to 80% chance in the Northeast. Now, of course, the big concern about this weather system will be the much colder temperatures that are going to come in. We've talked about this in yesterday's video. We even discussed it in the previous video before that, a couple of days ago, and even 3 days ago. This is a pretty concerning scenario that is now setting up because we have a more dynamic system that we're dealing with here. So that means we have more colder air that is going to be coming in out of the north. So this is basically showing us on our ensemble what are the chances of seeing temperatures as cold as negative 10 degrees. I believe that's, negative 10 degrees. So any areas here, if you're in a chance like, say, northeastern Minnesota, or northwestern Minnesota, northeastern North Dakota, you have some chances here of seeing temperatures as cold as negative 10 degrees in Fahrenheit. Of course, forget about it if you're in Manitoba and northern Saskatchewan. Very likely you will see temperatures that are negative 10 degrees. Now, there is a non-zero chance in some of these areas overnight, especially in northwestern Minnesota. You could have temperatures as cold, potentially as cold. Okay, there's a 30% of seeing temperatures as low as negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. That is brutal. That's wind chill advisory, wind chill warning criteria. Most certainly a wind chill warning because you're going to have some 15 to 20 mile an hour winds coming in out of the northwest. All right, but look at what happens. Okay, so that cooler air moves out, but let's just we're just curious, right? are the chances of someone seeing 10-degree temperatures? All right, so like northern Illinois, portions of Indiana, you have a 10 to 20% chance of seeing temperatures of 10 degrees above zero, right, at night. Also, very likely in northern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, and also in, say, Iowa. But the Northeast here, you can really get a coverage on the extent here of population that's going to be involved here at seeing those chances of temperatures at least 10 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. When we go down to 0 degrees, you can see, again, covering those northern states of the U.S. like Minnesota, Wisconsin, and North Dakota. Usually, they're the ones that see the coldest temperatures on average to speak of, and so that's not a surprise. And of course, up here across Quebec and Ontario, Canada, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan, you have a 70 to 90% chance of seeing temperatures of at least 0 degrees. In other words, this is a very cold air mass that is going to be moving into the region. And when we do take a look at those temperature anomalies, you can see why that is. Look at all these temperatures here, much lower than average. In these green colors, that's showing us temperatures 10 to 15 degrees below normal. And then look at this in Minnesota. You could have temperatures on the ensemble based on a blend of 51 different members here, anywhere between 20 to almost 30 degrees below normal. That is significant. We will likely have record low temperatures during the overnight hours on for Thursday morning, especially actually even for Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, and even maybe holding off even into Friday morning. Those 3 mornings could be really dicey in the morning, so make sure you do bundle up in the morning hours for your morning commute, and make sure you have time to defrost your windshield, because there could be some ice also on windshields overnight too, since there will be some relatively high humidity values and of course some below average temperatures here for the eastern seaboard. But anyways, I really do hope this video helped you out a lot to make planning possible with your morning commute. If you're doing any outdoor activities, walking your dog, or doing anything, going to the park, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you found this video really informative, really detailed, and helpful. And also hit the like button if you did like today's video, and also leave a comment in the section below this video, because I do enjoy making these videos as often as I can possible, especially after lack of uploading last week. So thank you all for watching today's weather forecast on that upcoming snowstorm and much colder air. Make Friday a great day on the 6th day of December here in the home weather office. I will talk to you guys again tomorrow.